for the opportunity to govern it, that it may be a peaceful place where people can raise their families and to enjoy the world around us. We ask for thy blessing to be upon us as that we may be guided and directed in the affairs of the city. And we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Also, Councilor Bob Postcard is welcome to this place.
Please repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead to be the consent agenda. Number one, the approval of the October 18th, 2023 City Council minutes. Also, number two, resolution amendments to the Payson City fee schedule. Unless there's some discussion by council, I'm ready for a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as outlined by
Thank you. The motion carries. Oh, well, I guess I've got to do roll call. Council Beecher,
the mayor. Yes.
Council Carter. If not here, we'd like to excuse Council Carter. Council Christensen,
Yes.
Council Hyatt.
Yes.
Council Proscar.
Yes.
I did it out of turn. Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to city petitions. We'll do the cities that, communities that care, the Mayor's Youth Award. Shelby.
The Mayor Youth Recognition nominee for November from Mount Nebo Middle School is Gabriella Lund. She is an all-around amazing student. You can go ahead and come up with your beer. Mrs. Thompson said, Gabby is a natural leader and a person of integrity. She is responsible and a hard worker. Gabby's work ethic and fun personality will lead her to success in all aspects of her life. Mrs. Spencer said, Gabby is an incredible student. Everything she does is at 110%. She's a great leader and motivator for those around her. She's a hard worker, friendly, and awesome. Way to go, Gabby.
Gabby, you're here.
From Payson High School, we have Presley Ryan. Presley works hard both on and off the court and is not only a great player, but an excellent student. She earned the All-State All-Academic Award by maintaining a 4.0 GPA. She carries our team with humility and is a positive influence on her teammates. She puts in extra time above and beyond what we do as a team, lifting weights and conditioning to improve, and pushes herself to be her best. She's constantly striving to lift team morale and encourages her teammates to do their best. She's one of our team captains and takes that role seriously, and I can always count on her to do whatever task needs to be done. She led the Lions to the Sweet 16 at state this year with 271 kills, 36 blocks, 44 aces, 21 assists, and 157 digs. She will be greatly missed next year, but I know she will go on to do amazing things in her life, both on and off the court. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to the public forum. Anyone can speak on any items that are not on the agenda. Please be cognizant of the time and come up to the podium and again identify who you are. Not seeing anyone that wants to do it here in the council chambers, Kim?
Is this for anything in Payson or?
As long as it's not on the agenda. Come on up.
Kenny Ellsworth again. You guys bought my property 2 years ago again.
Okay.
And we're still having problems with Eric.
Okay.
We can't get I like to know how you guys are getting approved to build houses if our stuff ain't approved yet.
Okay. We'll have to
And
find out.
yes, so I would too. I haven't got my driveway fixed. I got a new plow coming, cause I destroyed my plow last year and my kid's car. And it's still, I got pictures I'm gonna send you. I've been trying to get a thing so I can send you pictures of how the asphalt looks. But he keeps pressuring us and the neighbor to sign off on it. And I got it on my email that, no, I'm not signing. He even says, no, I wouldn't sign off on it either. So if you look at my asphalt into my new driveway, well, not a new driveway, but the stuff he did,
Robert, can we figure out what's going on there? Robert?
so.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, he's promised us, was it what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
After you guys made him come and tar the road, oh, I'll be here tomorrow to fix your driveway.
Okay.
And that's been 3 weeks. And the neighbor, because he ain't here, he was supposed to come with us, but they're supposed to fix his, you can't even get to his backyard. It's so sloped.
Okay.
You know, I just let you know again.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We need to be.
Yes, because I'm not ruining nothing else.
Travis, no. Travis, I guess you're.
Are you aware of what's going on, Travis?
Okay.
What is going on?
Well, we purchased the property, they wanted to keep the existing sidewalks on both sides, so there's still, and then they wanted to keep the asphalt in between. So the way that the curb is in the back of walk, there's a drop, so they weren't supposed to drive everywhere over, it's not a drive approach. all
We
the way
never
over.
drove over it. It was closed off for 3 weeks. We never drove over it. So I got pictures of the asphalt going up their new sidewalk. I got an inch, 2 inch, half inch. It goes like this, all the way from their new sidewalk to my property that they were supposed to fix. I got a gutter from where they fixed to where my other stuff was, and they tore up and the city tore up. That goes like this, it's probably about this deep. I got asphalt here, dirt, and then asphalt, right in the middle of half of the property. So we never drove over it. I can tell you that, we never drove over it. Them cones stayed there for 3 weeks.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay, I mean, this has been 2 years now.
Okay. It's
So
time we figured out. Thank you.
since this has started from him.
Okay.
So I got pictures. You know, not being, last time I got accused for saying the F-bomb here, and I did.
Okay, well, I don't remember that.
Me either, because I know I did.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay,
Well, we moved, I can go.
anybody else here before I turn to Kim and say nobody online, right? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public forum. And we'll move on to staff reports. Any staff would like to address us? Oh, coming, Janine? Good.
Mayor and council, I just want to take a minute and do a shout out to our mayor. He always has 1,000 things on his plate every day, but he attended our big band Halloween dance, and I know he had 1,000 other things going on, so I want to thank him for always supporting every event
Thank you.
that we have. I appreciate that. I just want you to know that we had around 125 people to the dance. It was very successful. It was the perfect amount of people for that space. And it was very family oriented and it was a lot of fun. I always try to do something a little different every year, and this year, I thought I'd try to make sure that the smoke detectors were working in the building. So I got a new fog machine and lit it up, and then all of a sudden Chief Spencer's there, and so I had a couple more other people from the city show up. My grandkids think I'm the coolest grandma. I invite the fire truck and the ambulance and a couple of police cars. But the building looked really cool for Halloween with all the lights going on and off. It was the perfect Halloween setup. Couldn't get any better. So I just want you aware that our next event is the Santa Dash. That's the November 24th, day after Thanksgiving. It's when we turn on all the Christmas lights for the city. So we dash down the west side of the Patini, head towards Main Street, go towards the park, and all the Christmas lights are coming on. We end up back up at the Patini. Payson Market donates donuts, and as we have donuts and hot chocolate, then we turn on all the lights at the museum. So I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Any other staff would like to address this? Not seeing anyone, we'll start with the council report, starting with Council High.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Thanks for keeping us.
Hey, Council Prostar.
Just one, Mayor, I had the opportunity to attend the junior high slash that age group football championship over at Timpview High School. Payson played Timpview for the championship game. I was so tickled with that. There was 4 times the Payson citizens than there was the Timpview. And it was cold and it was kind of miserable, but I was just tickled. While the outcome wasn't what we would like to have been, shout out to the Payson people. They've always been very supportive. There were grandparents, there were parents, but there was just some interested people that had watched this team all year long. And what a neat feeling to go there and do that leadership. So shout out to the staff. I'm amazed at what we do to keep citizens happy. Travis, got a target on you, buddy, for the next one. Get it fixed. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
You bet. No, generally, but I'm gonna, now that you mentioned football, I'm gonna do a shout out for the Payson High School football team. First time in 48 years. Roughly 1972 was the last time we were involved in the state playoffs, I believe, and actually took stake in 1972. 1970, my class, we took stake as well, but they beat Provo. It was unexpected. In the fourth quarter, they had some fortunate recoveries of fumbles and were able to beat Provo. It was very close here in Payson, and again, it was a win in Provo. So shout out to them. I don't know if anybody here heard, but fire chief and police department brought them in from that win Main Street, and kind of like to keep that for a state, but this is close to that first time in 48 years. So shout out to that.
Having beach night. Great job.
Sounds gracious.
Not really, just kind of have the cars parked on the road thought on my mind again. I don't know where we're at. I know it's always brought up, and I'm sure we get a friendly reminder out there. It's all, thanks.
Okay, moving on to D, action items, resolution program guidelines for commercial facade improvement program. Jill?
Okay, Mayor and City Council, let me hurry and share my screen and have a short presentation. Okay, let's see. Jason. Awesome, thank you. Okay, Mayor and City Council, I know we've been working on this for a while. I won't go into a lot of history on it, but I did want to give you a good update on our facade improvement program for downtown. So because of the historical pictures, I'm not going back to the 1800s or early 1900s on this history, but just as far as this project. So the City Council, it has been one of your goals, and you've relayed out to staff that you want to support the historical and cultural identity of downtown Payson. We see that as a great showcase for our community, a great opportunity. Our downtown is different than many other downtowns, even in our close vicinity, other communities. You know, we have a smaller downtown, a more intimate downtown for the businesses down there, and it's not a state highway. So anyway, there's a lot of opportunity there, and you know, we have a lot of successful businesses that are happening down there, but we want to also find some opportunities to assist them with making improvements to their property. And so we're looking at some funding that would help with facade enhancements, additional or improved public access, or removal of encroachments in the right of way. We're gearing up for phase 1 of the downtown revitalization project. That project will go out to bid soon, and anticipating to start those improvements in the spring. Well, as part of that, there's going to be some inconveniences, I guess you can say, in downtown. And so we want to find some opportunities for applicants to improve, like the rear entrances of their building, or add additional enhancements. In some cases, there's some encroachments that need to be removed. There's some awnings that are in the public right of way that need to be removed. So we've been looking at some funding for that. So we applied through Mountain Land Association of Governments for Community Development Block Grant funding. So I know we use acronyms a lot, but we may say CDBG, but it is Community Development Block Grant. It is federal funding. We were successful in our efforts. I do have to give a lot of applause to Mayor Wright for helping to get that funding, as he serves on the board that determines where that money will go. So we were able to get $200,000 from them, and then Payson City has also contributed some money to help with this program as well. So it is the first facade improvement program that will be for Utah County CDBG funds. So we're the pioneers for this particular project. Now, we're not the pioneers for facade improvement programs, because there's a lot of communities to do that, and some of them even in the state of Utah, but they're utilizing their own CDBG funds. Where we're not an entitlement city, we had to apply for use of you know, a pot of money that is given to Utah County. And then so every community in Utah County gets to apply for these funds. But this will be the first one using those Utah County funds for a facade improvement program. So we're a little nervous about that, but we're also pretty excited about that, because we could actually be the model program for Utah County. And then the funding is available until December of 2024. There is a funding cycle with this, and so it is not indefinite. And so there's a certain window that we can utilize that. So if businesses are willing, and if they're eligible, we can utilize it in that period. If the funding isn't utilized by that time, it goes back to HUD. We can apply again in the future, but we're really hoping that we'll have some successful projects over the next year that we'll be able to see this project continue. So there are some program boundaries in this. So we have identified an eligibility boundary for a much larger or broader area of downtown, because we have a lot of historic commercial buildings in this area. So we have two eligibility areas. One is the much larger area that's there, and I know it's probably really hard to see on this screen, but then we also have a target area, and that is for those properties that will be impacted by phase 1 of the revitalization project. And so we wanted to give them the first run, I guess you can say, at this money if they're interested, because they will be the ones that will be immediately impacted by this project. But anyone in those boundaries, they could come in. It is first come, first served, but we will get priority to the target area. So just some of the highlights that are included in these guidelines. It has to support the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So HUD, it has to meet their program rules. One of their national efforts is providing
creating jobs or retaining jobs for low or moderate income persons. And so there's several different national objectives that HUD needs to meet, but the one that made the most sense for our facade program was the jobs creation or the retention. And there's a balance in the guidelines of that. Up to a certain amount of money, you can retain a job, you can show that you would retain a job, and then at a certain point, increasing, you actually have to show that an additional job has been created. So we would work directly with MAG staff and any of these property owners in order to make sure that they meet that jobs requirement. It's federal funding, so there's a lot of documentation. There is, I hate to say red tape, but there are a lot of things that have to be done. It's a great program. I think there's a lot of opportunity. But, one thing that, I would stress to you or to anybody that was interested in this is don't shy away from the paperwork. I think working together with the city and with MAG staff, and then we can find a way in order for them to meet all of those requirements. But I know sometimes, we get bogged down or we get discouraged by some of the regulations. But again, they have an objective that they're trying to reach, and we're going to try to help property owners through that process. So there's things like contractors. Contractors have to be registered with SAM.gov. It's a federal requirement. They have to pay Davis-Bacon wages, which is the prevailing federal wage. So there's, they have to have a unique entity number. There's different things that need to be done. And these guidelines, as well as some supplemental information we have, would actually walk them through that. We've also met with some other cities that have similar programs. We've received information from them on potential contracts or documents that we would need to move forward, even getting lists of contractors that have done similar work in other communities. So we're hoping those resources will be beneficial to these property owners. So the grants, the way that we have it identified at this time is they'd be up to $50,000 for eligible improvements. A lot of those eligible improvements are included in this document. It is a match grant, and so it's 80-20. So 80% Payson City or through the CDBG funds, and 20% for the property owner. So they would have to put some money into the project. They must demonstrate the jobs, as I mentioned, and the jobs or the funding amount is going to be controlled by the number of jobs created or retained, as I previously mentioned. It is a reimbursement-based grant, and so they would have to, the property owner would have to pay for that, have documentation that they have paid their contractors. They would submit for reimbursement, and reimbursement would come from through MAG following the completion of the project. It is for commercial buildings, so there has to be a commercial component to this. So it's not for residential structures. You at least have to have a commercial, it can be a mixed use, it could be commercial and residential, but it has to have a commercial component. And the buildings have to be at least 50 years old. And then there's bid proposals, documentation agreements, different things that were outlined in the documents that would need to be done. So just as conclusion, a couple of things. We're just trying to find ways in order to protect that community identity. We all know that downtown is important to us. It's been important to our community, for over 100 years. And we feel that these improvements and providing some opportunities for applicants to reinvest in these properties are going to improve the economic vitality of downtown. It's going to protect those buildings, the historical significance, again, jobs. Jobs are really important to the businesses, to the community, for HUD's national efforts. And then again, we're going to be the model program for other cities. So I think there's going to be some really awesome things that come out of that. And then just finally, I can't say enough, it's federal funding. So there's some things that need to be done, but we're really going to try to promote this program in a way that, this is a benefit for those property owners. Going to take a few extra steps, but we hope that the money used will actually benefit their businesses, provide job opportunities, and in some cases, keep those businesses open. Anyway, so I appreciate the mayor and others for suggesting that we apply for the CDBG funding, and I think we're well underway. We understand that this document is probably going to have to change. We felt like this is a really good start just based on what we've learned from other communities. And as we need to make adjustments in order for it to work for either the overall program or for individual property owners, then we may come back to you with some adjustments in the future. But we do not want to delay anymore. We want to have this approved so we can start working with the property owners and looking for some good projects.
Thank you, Jill.
Yes.
Just to add just a little bit, as you said, some of the other bigger cities have used this type of funding in the past, Provo cities being one of them. And so we do have a little bit of information to pattern ours after as well, but as you said, it'll be the pattern for the other smaller cities as we proceed. And we don't want to see, in connection with the project downtown, we don't want to see any of the businesses go out of business during the construction period, which is going to be an extended period of time, and that's why the back sides of these businesses are targeted for that facade. So,
That's correct.
council, I think this is a great project, and just could submit it to you guys. Are any comments about it?
Jill, the employees of the recipient of this money, they can only make a certain amount of money. Is that correct?
Yes, because you have to meet that low to moderate income level. And so there's paperwork, and I know sometimes that information is really sensitive, but we do have some paperwork that we've received from Provo and from Mountain Land that we would give and have confidential to get the information from those business owners to make sure that they qualify. Because in the end, we don't want to see somebody get through all the process and find out that they didn't submit a paper, or or the wage of the employee wasn't within that window. But yes, that is correct.
Same thing with MAG. They don't want to see anybody miss out on
Right.
opportunity.
Mountain Land Association of Governments, their staff that have been remarkable to work with. They have helped us. I've called them with a lot of questions, where this is a new program, and they've been very responsive and helping. And even Provo City, I just have to give a shout out to Provo City because their staff has been very helpful.
Do you know
Sharing their
property owners
experience.
that are ready and willing to do this?
Well, with that, so we had a barbecue with the downtown businesses about a month ago. And so we shared some information then, and I had several people come up to my little station and ask a little bit about, so a lot of them were asking some questions. Some I could answer that night, some I couldn't. I had to follow up with MAG staff. We have met with one property owner since then to talk specifically in detail about they're gathering some additional information for us to begin the process. But at the barbecue, there were several property owners that came up and wanted to know more about the program. So we hope that we can meet with them individually and see whether or not this is a good funding option for them.
And I've had a few approach me as well. So. Okay, any further discussion? Nope. Okay, then I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the guidelines for the commercial facade improvement program as outlined by Jill.
I'll second that. I have one comment. We're comfortable with the boundaries. I know it comes up to Crouches, drops back over. Is it first south?
Yes, on First South. I mean, if you wanted to change the boundaries, if you wanted to go one more block
I
south.
think it gets what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
If we change the
And the
boundaries, does
buildings
it
that are
cause
any
problems with
further
the-
out of there are not 50
Oh, is
years
that-
old.
If we change the boundaries, does it cause
No,
problems?
no. No, that's something that we can identify.
determine. Can
We still
change
have to
those
meet the
later?
national objective of HUD, but we can determine the boundary.
Okay.
That was just our stab at saying, okay, looking at some of the businesses
Could
or
that be
the
a
buildings
moving
that were
target?
there. What was that?
Could that be a meaning could
Yes.
the boundary move a little bit?
Yes, we could.
I think
yeah.
if we hit this and it's June of next year and there's still $150,000 to go, then I think we should.
Well, we want to get that done way before June of next year, because we want to get started on the construction maybe in the spring.
Yeah, I just don't want the money left sitting on the table. And I would like to see it go where we've allocated.
I think the target area right there in Main Street on our phase one is who we should
Mhm.
really
Yeah,
encourage.
that should be the main target.
That would be, roughly, that would be for every 50,000 that they would, let's see, every 10,000 a business owner would use, they would get 50,000 in grant.
That is correct.
Five.
Yep, 5 to 1, exactly. Yeah, well, and with this, I mean, if you hear of other properties or if staff does, we anticipate that upon the adoption of these, we're actually going to have some promotional materials that we go downtown and share with all the business owners. We introduced it at the barbecue. Now we want to go door to door and hand them some information that they can
Say
think
it's
about,
approved.
and then come and meet with staff if they're interested. But yes, I agree with all those statements. I think we need to gear up a little bit more if we're getting close to the end, but I also want, I don't know if I want to wait that long either, but you're absolutely right. I don't want to leave money on the table either.
So once we qualify, we need to use it.
Well, and we want some
December
successes
20,
too. So
2024 is coming fast.
right, it is. And we want some successes because then we can, I mean, we can always apply for more funding, more CDBG funding in future years. But if we have some successes, then we can use that towards getting additional funding in the future. So we're motivated, we're
If you don't
motivated.
use the funding they allocate, they have a tendency not to allocate.
That's right.
Well, Pro will use CBDG for multiple years too, but because of.
Yes,
what
they
you
have.
just said.
And then the other issue is that it's a reimbursement fund, so it's gotta happen pretty quick. If the money's gotta be spent by a year from now, they gotta be pretty quick, because it's reimbursed.
And I think it's
And-
gonna be a
and-
real asset for them on the backside. I know the front sides are really important to us, but with the way that it's all planned out, I think the backsides of the buildings need to become.
Well, and the property owner we met with recognizes that. They said, okay, with the construction project occurring, we may want to move forward with improving the rear entrance to our building now, so we're not affected by that construction project.
Right.
And like you said, it can, if we have success stories, we can always apply for more.
Absolutely.
Kim, are we still good with our motion?
I'm good with my second.
We have a first and we have a second, roll call starting with Council Christensen,
Yes.
Council Beecher,
Yes.
Council Postcard.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Joe. And we're moving on to number 2, ordinance amendments to Title 12 subdivision regulations. Robert?
You're not gonna like mine as much. But I would also just say on the last one, kudos to Jill for all her hard work on that. And then also, MAG staff has already indicated to us that this is a pilot program, so if we maybe need to extend that December 2024 horizon, they're already thinking about that as well. So they're most interested in the success of this program, not necessarily the time frame.
That's pretty good to go back.
Right. Yeah. So. Okay, we'll just start from here. Council, my presentation tonight is regarding some legislation that was passed by the state legislature this past session. And in that, Senate Bill 174 created a new process for subdivision approval. And that is approval of single-family, two-family, and townhome projects. The bill specifically designates that an approving body is now a land use authority, which is not the planning commission or the city council. So we have proposed some amendments to have our code come into compliance with this, having the land use authority be the development services director and the public works director or their designees. Let me give a little bit of background to that. All laws are reactionary, right? And so this comes from a place of subdivision really is an administrative action. It should not be a legislative action. And there have been some councils or planning commissions or other things that have put undue burden on the subdivision process by requiring things that they really shouldn't have done. That got back to the legislature, and SB 174 is the result of this. So essentially what this is saying is subdivision of these is an administrative process, and we're going to make sure it stays that way by creating a land use authority. This is for, again, subdivision applications for single family, two family, and townhome developments, including preliminary plan and final plan. So one specific thing that's not up there is multifamily, so you'll still see those. And then in this, there's some requested changes to Title 12, which is our subdivision ordinance and how we administer that.
Robert, can I stop you right there for a minute? I can't find anywhere on there the makeup of the land use authority.
So that will be further defined in chapter 13.
So that'll be coming to
Mhm.
some.
Yep.
We didn't touch 13 as of yet. There were some changes that were gonna be made, but one of them depends on the station area plan, another.
I don't care about that, I care about who the body is going to be, who comprises the land use authority.
Yeah, so by practice in Payson City, applications are reviewed by our development review committee. So all of those entities, but then the authority, we've talked about this at length, and having the development services director and the public works director as the land use authority, those are the two entities that really are over subdivision and making sure that a subdivision application complies with the regulations of the code. Subdivision for these actions is really a checkbox situation, right? You want to make sure that the application is consistent and abides by the regulations of our code. And that's really the difference here of the responsibility of a land use authority or whatever in an administrative role and the legislative body in their role. The legislative body, your job is to make sure that our code has all of those checkboxes that we want to have in the subdivision process.
But we're taking a lot of those check boxes out.
We're not taking any of the checkboxes out. We're just changing the approving body.
Well, I believe as a legislative body or as a body, that the citizens hold our feet to, why are you building that subdivision in that neighborhood?
Right.
And if I remember right, if it's if we consider it to be detrimental, or the planning and zoning commission deems it to be detrimental, we have the right to say, yeah, we better look at smaller density or something to make it more palatable. This way, they take that away from an elected group of people that the citizens hold our feet to the fire. It's no more.
See, and
Shame on the state, shame on the
See,
legislature.
and the difference though is that we should be making those determinations at zone change requests. Because once a property is zoned, there are certain development rights that go along with that zoning. And so what we have to do is when a property comes in for a zone change, that's when the legislative body has that exact responsibility that you're talking about to say, are we really okay with all of the uses that would be allowed in this zone? Are we really okay with the height and the setbacks and the parking and all of those things? Those are legislative actions. And that's when you're exactly right, that the residents of our community expect you to examine all of those things. And the answer is either the zoning is appropriate or the zoning is not. If we have determined that the zoning of a parcel is appropriate, then we should be able to go through and checkbox the subdivision part of that. Does that make sense?
Or input would be in that, so that's involved with the zoning.
That's right.
Before it gets to that.
But then I would hope future councils, speaking to you guys, whoever's out there that's running, at the zoning process would make sure that the input from the citizens weigh heavy on what goes in their neighborhood. I
100%.
I zone everything in 5A and say, guess what?
You have to come in every time.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Right. There are some advantages to that. There are some inefficiencies to that,
But at least it gets I mean, you guys, we've all had projects come in and smell like a fish. And it becomes a fish. I mean, we're dealing with something,
that's
right?
right. But I think
So the
that
legislature is taking that,
But at the same time, we don't want to run scared, but we want to not. piss
don't
them
want
off
to run
either.
scared, we want Payson to be Payson.
that's right. And so that's where we look at our zoning ordinance and say, oh, well, if we are going to rezone this piece of property, are we comfortable with the zone that's being requested, or is there something different? Or is the zone okay, but we want to tweak these little things? That's really where your legislative power lies, in really saying and looking out for the residents of our community to say, if the zoning is correct, then the application should follow a smooth process. And that gives assurance to those people that want to develop in our community, right? Because if people are coming to our community and they're operating under a certain degree of assurance that, oh, my property is zoned this, so if I meet all of these check boxes, then I should be able to move forward with my project. And the problem was happening that people would come to that city with a certain degree of assurance, but then we're told, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that because we don't like your project. So you can see that there's a little bit of disconnect there.
Because that takes the legality of spot zoning.
That's right.
As an engineer who submitted subdivisions, this has always been a problem.
It has.
Is it
Yeah, I get it.
is it the influences of the personal feelings of people don't apply to the checkboxes? And as an engineer, you go in with a set of plans that meets all the checkboxes, and then you get some fluke that says,
I've submitted those plans. But I've been respective of the residents.
Right.
I got a $30 million project in Provo sitting on hold because it's too high for the residents. When we started it, it was there. It met all of the requirements, but they changed the requirements. And now they can't do that anymore, but I still like the fact that the residents had a say.
right, and they still will have a say.
Yeah, but it'll be too late.
It'll be earlier in the process.
By the time zoning changes the zone and then they come in with their plans, it's too late.
And that's really part of the process of it. Zoning. There should be a really good reason to zone change a property, to change the zoning of a property. So as a council, you are more than welcome to say, you know, what is this zone change tied to? And then the applicant can say, oh, well, we want to do this type of project. That, you know, and then there's some assurances there.
Any smart developer is gonna come in and be as vague as he can with what he's proposing to do.
And maybe that's not a good reason to change the zoning. Vagueness is not a good reason to change zoning.
How many different, I know I should know this answer better, but when they're sitting in front of me, I remember them and there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of different zones. Is there enough zones that we can kind of determine a little bit tighter to what goes into something? Does that make sense? Like, I know you've got your residential, what's the small?
Yeah, so there are like residential zones that, I mean, customarily R18, R19.
Yeah.
We see that in Payson City, the smallest lot size currently that we allow by zoning is 6,500 square feet. And so that gives us the chance to say, okay, we're now going to look at this zone, and we don't have to have an application to do that. You can direct us as staff to say, let's look at
Review all the zones.
Review these zones, and that's what we're starting to do with our planning commission as well, is to really, because they have the same concerns. And then when we talked it through, it was more of, okay, well then let's look at our code, update what we need to, and move forward that way and be very, very cautious and inquisitive at the zone change application stage or the annexation stage. Oftentimes zoning is applied at annexation. And so we have to be careful there as well.
Annexation, we bring in an R5, right? We bring them into 5.
Yeah, but the problem with bringing them in as a 5 is when all of that's presented, we're sitting there, we say, okay, that's a 5, let's write it, and then they come back
And
2 or 3 years later,
I
and it's a
want a
new,
hard 180.
yeah, and it's a new council, and so I think as you're looking at the whole plan, the whole layout, I'm sitting here thinking about Spring Creek, that's what's in the back of my head right now, and like, how do we make sure that if it's what we want, if we want 1/3 acre, we want 1/8 acre, or 1/2 acre lots, that it is zoned, and when it comes in, it is zoned as such, so that those people that are engineers and laying it out, they don't want to do it twice, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna make it meet those zones, right? And so if we do it in advance, and that's about the last chance we have. After that, then it becomes legal for them to put whatever we zone it as.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
and I think if you go to the 5A holding, which is just 5 acres, it says, yeah, this is agricultural, you can't really do anything with it. They could come in and then you can start to do these spots, and they'll end up with the high density pockets in the wrong spot, and I think that.
Well, and that's when you look at the general plan and the specific plan to
Right.
say, okay, what is this property really intended to be? And if somebody is asking for 30 units to the acre when we've only intended it to be 8 units to the acre, those are when the bells go off to say, alarm, like,
Which I think the community thinks 8 to an acre is a lot. And that's
in some places it is, in some places it's not enough.
right.
And as we do that, we're gonna have to be realistic, because we don't want the ire to come down.
That's right.
Let's
So-
go further into what they're doing.
There's a lot of safety in following your plan. At least for now. No. So,
Won't be long until the state legislature then they're gonna.
Well, we don't want that to happen, that's what I'm referring to.
yeah. Okay, so if you want me to, I have a PDF of all of the specific changes that we're looking at, but, okay.
There's more red cross outs.
There's a lot of red cross out.
There is,
Yeah.
we're keeping.
It's
Yeah.
turned into
And
lawyer.
we're gonna start to check.
Well, all the red cross outs.
Yeah. There's a lot of strike through.
And we're gonna revisit this to a certain point with Title 13 too.
Right. So so Title 13 and defining the land use authority isn't necessarily a specific part of this. We just have to change it right now before February 1st of 2024. So we can go through and, specifically do that. Our intention is that in allowing that land use authority of the Development Services Director and Public Works Director or designees, then that really gets to the people who are actually reviewing these on a day-to-day basis. Still with the input of all of those other entities in our
I'll
city.
go back to the land use authority.
Mhm.
Is there a negative of why we wouldn't, is there a number of people that we can have sit on that, number one?
No.
And number two is there some traction in why we wouldn't have a council member be part of that land use authority?
Because the statute specifically says council cannot.
Yeah. Council members are prohibited.
Cannot be part of it.
I do.
Most people, they don't want to stay on there.
They don't want us anywhere near.
Again, laws are reactionary.
Even the state.
So with that, that's basically my presentation. I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
I'm just throwing out things
Yeah.
to try to mitigate my concern. What about citizens at large then?
Okay,
Jump all over.
our attorney wants to answer that one.
No, because while this is a checklist, the staff members that will be reviewing these are also there's 2 issues. One is the specifications and the requirements that you gotta know our own code, plus you gotta know the rules that go with it. That's the checklist portion of it. Second portion of it, and this is probably the harder part, is now there's a shot clock. We didn't have these on before until now. Starting February 1st for us, and we hope to have it in place long before that, but we have basically 20 days, business days from the initial entry. If we accept it as it is, without, everything's complete, all the paperwork, everything's in, we accept it. We have 20 days to review it. And that means the land use authority, those two members, and get it back to them. They have a certain amount of time, I want to say it's about 10 days, 15 days maybe, to send it, to get the red lines or any comments and get it back. If there's an issue between those two anytime during that time frame, then it's held up until one of the other side has to correct their end of it. But once you get to that fourth review, that's it, we're done. Now, there was a part of this bill that was left in until toward the end of it. That portion of it, according to the developers, was to basically make it automatic. It was automatically approved at the end if the city didn't comply with the time frame. That luckily got taken out, because at least it gives us an opportunity as our staff members, and that's why we rely on the development services and engineering staff to go over these quite specifically and within the given time frame, because to do that, it's going to take some work to adjust a little bit. We are close to the time frame, at least the initial one, as of right now. The only issue that's going to take place, or the little change that's going to take place, is the initial intake. We have to make sure that it meets a certain checklist of items that are included in the documentation.
I do.
I know you do. I'm just doing what the legislature's telling us, though. That's all we're doing.
But here's the point I want to make. You put two people, staff, and that puts a target on them. Because staff can interpret, I mean, we've got documents out there that can be interpreted any different direction you want, as long as you get an attorney that can prove that interpretation, right? So staff could determine that one way, and next thing you know, citizens are having a meltdown of why that was approved in their area, and they say, well, it checks all the boxes, and they say, no, it don't. According to us, we feel like that you've read that wrong. In other words, we're putting a target on our staff, when I would rather elected officials or somebody else take the heat.
Well, and yes, I understand that, but I mean, when the legislature's telling us, look, we've got to take it out of your hands. And unfortunately, that's what's happening.
Why didn't the legislature just give it to the developers that were screaming?
I almost.
You know,
Hold on till next session.
My
Don't
fear,
forget that session starts in January.
that's my fear, Bob, is that next session, they're gonna take it away at the zone changes.
There is already
The
talk,
citizens of the state need to quit electing developers to the legislature.
there is already talk, well, by one of the major developers in the state to push it to checklist for administrative zoning as well.
You can see what's going.
And
That's a bad idea.
yeah, I mean, most,
That's a real
all the cities, the League of Cities, everybody is against that, but the development community is trying to push that through.
And that's why we're very active for the League of Cities.
Yes.
I mean, what they would really like to do is to create a state zone standard for every type of development, and then it just applies universally in whatever city that you're in.
And we'll find that.
Yeah.
See it coming.
Well, this isn't a problem for the large voting populace of Salt Lake County, because they're all built out. It's when you get down into here and it's all,
Well, I
You get room.
I had a nice discussion with the Harriman City Attorney last week.
Harriman would be the exception to that rule. I
Harriman
will
is not
retract-
built out yet.
No, I will
We're getting
retract it
close
for
enough.
Harriman, but I,
Okay, I still think we're to the point.
We made it enough, but I'm telling the
I know.
people that are running for office, we're slowly losing the grip of our authority to keep Payson the way we want it to keep. And zoning is the only place we can.
And so I think my message in all of this is make sure that we are doing legislative things at the legislative level, and administrative things at the administrative level.
Preempt what is gonna happen.
Right.
Put us in a box and put the lid on it.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I told you you weren't gonna like mine as much.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the amendments to Title 12 subdivision regulations, finding that the state has ordered us to do so.
Can we begrudgingly second
What if the truth. What if we do if we say no?
I refer you to the bottom line.
No, it's not an option.
Oh, okay. Why do you want to focus?
So did you second it?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion been seconded. Roll call vote, starting with Council Hyde,
Yes.
Council Grosskreutz.
This is just ridiculous. It really is.
It is. We don't have, we're not voting our choice here.
Yes.
We're forced into.
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay.
Very reluctantly. Please put that
Yes.
on my vote.
Yes. Council Beecher,
Yes.
Council Christensen.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thank you. Moving on to number 3.
When will we see 13, Robert?
I'm not gonna be right.
Okay.
pretty soon.
Is that pretty soon according to the federal government or to you?
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Okay, resolution, Utah Lake Preservation Grant Agreement. Dave?
Okay, maybe we can get back on the happy things.
This has given us money. We want it.
This is, so the Utah Lake Preservation Grant, we applied. We ended up getting 4.65 million. They gave us an additional 2 million. As you look here in the agreement, it says the grantee must demonstrate that 2 million of the funding will be used to construct treatment capacity for the Payson fruit growers. Payson fruit growers applied for the grant. We supported them in that, but they can't give this Utah Lake money to a private company. So they gave us the 2 million, which we're appreciative to, but that has to be used to benefit the Payson fruit growers. Now, we looked at how much BOD and stuff they would send down to the sewer plant, and it's much more expensive than the $2 million will cover. So what we're trying to do, we thought the best reply would have Payson fruit growers build their own pre-treatment plant in their facility. And so the water that comes to our plant is a lot less, has a lot less of the nutrients in the BOD. They're doing that. I think they've got an engineer, their pre-treatment plant's 4-point-something million. Our goal is to keep the 2 million for the upgrade of our plant, but we're gonna work on funneling a couple $1 million to that pre-treatment program that they have. And we have to work out the detail of that agreement, whether we use our fund balance or whatever to help that, so it helps our plant and it helps them.
So it does help.
Overall, it's kind of a wash because we get 2 million more to go that we don't have to pay back. It's grant money, it's not loan, but we need to make sure that it works for the fruit growers. And we think it's best to have them do their own pre-treatment process. And by doing that, the load that they have right now would not go up at all. And I think it'll be a better process for all of us. But this agreement is just with the state of Utah, and it's saying that we have this much money, $6.65 million, which is not a great portion of the cost, probably a little less than 8.8%. But any bit that you don't have to pay back is great.
Any money we don't have to pay back.
We have a loan. You look at the state of Utah revolving loan. We received 14,500,000. 1 million of that we don't have to pay back. So that's another part of what's grant. The rest is loan. The interest rate on that part is very low. It's 0.5%. We wouldn't get that today. And then we've had to go out on the market for the other bonding, and we still may have to do some bonding at the very end. We're hoping to get things taken care of. It is under construction. If you've seen some of the we have to get this approved before we can have access to any of their funds. But there's things we can do with the bonding that we've already done. So it's a good thing that we have a little over 6 million, so we don't have to pay back. And so that's the agreement that we have, that we need approval to get it back to the state.
Question.
Yeah.
On another business that needs to have that put in. Can they apply for that same grant?
If it comes up again, this was something with,
So, I mean, they haven't built their new building, I know you guys have been talking about, but I know that we talked about them putting a pre-treatment plant in their place before it comes to us too, because they keep calling it the Salt Lake or whatever, because it's so high.
well, we have a current pre-treatment ordinance. I think the fruit growers were well before that, I believe. They were connected on back in the, what, 80s, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, right now, the pre-treatment ordinance, if they, depending on the level that they put into our sewer, they would probably be required to put the pre-treatment in before they could connect on. And we have, with the new upgrade to our plant, we have so much BOD capacity that we have to spread out to all the businesses. So yeah, the pre-treatment becomes very important. That if there's a new business that puts a lot of that type of material that could help us violate, or would violate the state requirements, then they would have to do a pre-treat before they could hook on. So I think we have ordinances in place now that would
So
take care
anybody
of
that hooks on new would have to meet that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I speaking right, Travis? We do have our pre-treatment ordinance, and so, yeah, any business that comes in and needs to connect to the sewer that has, you know, pretty concentrated BOD, then
Exceeds that amount.
yeah, they would have to do it, the pre-treatment before it comes into our system.
Do we have any others besides them?
Yeah, there are some that are on our pre-treatment program. Do you have any right offhand?
There's a cut Temkin, Corby's, I think there's another one in the business park that is, and then,
Sabinsa, maybe?
Sabins, I think, yeah, Cornby is the one that's fairly new that was put on a pre-treatment.
So are they building one?
They're down in the business park, but they have requirements that they can't exceed a certain amount of BOD or they violate and they get fined.
Well, that's where they're building on, that's what I'm wondering is, because we're expanding, so wouldn't it expand that? But they would probably have to do that.
Yeah, they have to meet with whatever limits we give them.
Okay, council, are there any other discussion? I'm ready for motion.
Sure, that's a good thing.
What's
That's
that?
a good thing.
Grant money
Yeah.
is a good thing.
Zeros to it while we do it, or do we have to stick with the criteria?
No.
Don't do this one reluctantly.
We carry nine zeros?
No, I'm not doing it politically, I just want to tell
Oh,
you.
no, it's-
Although I can see it's okay.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
I'll make the motion if you want to.
Okay, please.
If you don't want to. Okay, you make the motion.
I make a motion that we approve the Utah Lake Preservation Grant Agreement. That we follow everything they tell us to do. Sorry.
Okay,
I got
sure.
my dad doing it.
I'll second that
Okay,
with a chuckle.
okay. Okay, I have a motion been seconded, roll call, well, I can't remember where I started, roll call vote. Council Christensen.
Yes.
Council Beecher.
Yes.
Council Prostar.
Yes.
Council Webb.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just for your information, we're working on a draft with fruit growers and we'll send it to them and get their feedback, but we will bring that to you guys as well, so that you know what's going on and just trying to get this plant built and get everybody in compliance.
Okay, number E, work session, discussion regarding additional power generators. Sean. You're out. Thank you, Sean. This is exciting stuff.
He's got a good presentation. I get to be the button pusher.
Oh, okay.
You have it.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Yeah, the slideshow. So, this chart right here
shows the loads the city's hitting during about 9 months out of the year. So this is September through May. And so you can see our low load at night is about 10 megawatts, and we're going up to about 16 during the day. This is what we're hitting in the summer. So we're down around 14 megawatts, getting up to 34-ish, 35 megawatts. Next slide.
You see a peak with our all electric apartment complex. Some of the apartment complexes, when they came in, they put heat pumps in. They don't have any gas to them that we see. You wouldn't know because you weren't here before.
Well, I've seen them before in Springville, so it does bring up your winter loads a little bit with the heat and stuff, but as far as AC and that, it seems about the same. So this gap, if we can hit the next on there, it'll show we're trying to make up that 20 megawatts difference, and that's what's so hard. Because you can't just go buy anything. If you can go to the next slide. So let me explain the different kinds of power. So base load is generally coal, nuclear, natural gas combined cycle, geothermal, and hydro. So it's something that goes 24/7, constant. You don't really schedule it. And so when I think of base load, I think, okay, I probably want, as a strategy, I'm going to want to be around 10 megawatts so that you're always consuming the whole thing. It generally has the highest capital cost as well. And then the intermediate load is what you're hitting during the business hours, and generally use combined cycle gas. Solar is becoming a new thing with batteries that you can kind of fill that void. Generally, that power, the capital costs are cheaper to buy it, but generally it costs more. And then the peaking costs a lot because they're getting all their capital all in 3 months. And so those prices go really high. And those kind of things are generally simple cycle turbines with natural gas and batteries somewhat starting, and generation plants like what Payson currently owns with engines. And so that's pretty much what you have to do to try and follow the load curve. Just to give you an idea of if you were to buy 19 megawatts. So when you buy power, it comes in rectangles. And that's the problem. You're trying to fit these square things in round holes. You know, you can't shape them. And so if you were to go buy that peaking portion, 19.4 megawatts, 20 megawatts at $71, you'd be $12 million over the year to do that. And so you're going to take losses because you're going to be selling it in those early hours, 1 through 10. This is the market prices that Payson paid for the last few years. And so we had a few spikes there. You can see the ones that it was in June of 21. It started going crazy. We're getting 500 megawatt or dollars a megawatt. And I hadn't seen that since the Enron days. Then same within August, it started up. So that blended cost was, you know, all the exposure during all the hours that Payson had. So sometimes you're getting 5 megawatts an hour, sometimes you're buying 12. And so that averages out to a somewhat lower price at the 100 or even the 200 later on that happened last winter. But it's way scary and way volatile, as you can see. If we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, just as you can see, the November, December, January of last year, that's when that really hit, and that cost a lot through the US. That's why some of that fund balance that we had was eaten up because of the cost on the market.
Yeah, and that happened to most cities. And then the cities that had some gas generation and also had gas hedged were able to weather that a lot better. So some cities lost some really, really big money here in Utah and all over the West. So this is showing your fiscal year price that you paid in the market. You can see how back in 2019, 2020, fairly good, you know, and things really dropped in 2020. You probably remember oil hitting negative pricing in April of 2020, things like that. So it really dropped and then started coming back up, and then it went ballistic once all this stuff started happening in Ukraine and stuff, because we started exporting a lot of natural gas around the world. This is what our current resources look like. You can see what I would call baseload capacity totals, 20.6, which is pretty high when you consider we're down at 10 and 15 during most of the year. And then So we end up losing money on those because we're selling at a loss when we do that. The intermediate, it would be the Payson plant, or the intermediate I would count, through the rest of the year as well at the 20.6. And then we have the Payson power plant down there, 7 megawatts that gives us 27, which is quite a ways below the 34. And so we have quite a bit of exposure, but we're losing money during off months, which is a problem. So let's go to the next slide. I think you guys signed some kind of it's non-binding agreement. There was a bunch of engines, gen sets for sale that were supposed to be sold in Idaho to a utility, and then it fell through. So everyone started grabbing them with Utah utilities. So like Lehigh grabbed 3, Springville grabbed 3, Logan's trying to grab some right now. Nephi grabbed 2, and so they were already in the manufacturing queue, and you could kind of save some money with what was going on with the supply chain. That we just had crazy power prices, so everyone just started snapping them up, and there's still some there. And one of the things that what I want to talk about tonight is some of the advantages that Payson has, because you already have the existing buildings and lands, you have a emissions permit. Emissions permit's worth a lot, and where you're located in the middle of a lot of city land is good, because what they do is like if this desk was your property, they put a hypothetical person around the edge, and then they measure the modeling of what the ppm would be of CO or NOx on those levels. And so the bigger land you have, or the higher stack, the better plume making ability you have. So Payson's in a good position with that. Also right next to all that substation and gas pipeline. If we can go to the next slide. With what we're going to propose tonight, this is the strategy of where I would like to go, or where we'd like to go. Removing some of the long-term contracts, and we're going to get some solar coming in from northern Utah here in the next few months. We are also interested in getting a little more, so we can fill our intermediate with that, and it's a lot cheaper. It's about 3.5 cents, 3.5 cents kilowatt hour, or $35 a megawatt, which is pretty good. And then growing the power plant so that we can control what market exposure we have, and also get rid of that peaking stuff in the summer. And then there's also some money-making opportunities coming up. California has a thing called the EIM market, and what that is, energy imbalance market. So sometimes prices are going $1,000 a megawatt for like 5 minutes. And so you can schedule in on that for these shortages they're having because of California, and sell power to them. And so it makes you have a ton of flexibility by owning engines, but by doing this strategy, you're only covering your load. You're not gambling you're going to get that money, but then you will have that ability during the off months. And because that was one of the issues, with the big Nebo plant, is people kind of went too far in for what their own schedules were at first. And so it kind of creates some troubles till some other cities absorb things. So next slide, if we can. So next slide, next again. So that's where we would be if we're to do this idea that we're proposing tonight. Let's go next slide. That's currently the plant. And so engines 3 and 4 are the closest ones. 4 is the closest ones, then 3, and then 2, and then 1 down the other end. If we can go to the next slide, and we talk about the ages of them. So generator 4 and 3 is 1962 and 1968 vintage. Pretty small capacity too for how large they are. The other ones are 1987s, which actually that was right at the very end of manufacturing for the Enterprise Engine Company. It was 1987, and then they went away. We had, when I worked at Springville, we had one that was that vintage as well. So that was the best stuff that they had at the time, but pretty old. Let's go, and then let's show. We had a drone guy doing the sewer plant, and so I went over and asked him, "Hey, can we do our whole place?" And he said, "Sure." So we'll just kind of show you what the property looks like. You'll be able to see all the construction going on with the sewer plant too, and the water building as well.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. He could go 1,800 feet high, so.
So this is our plant right here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then this is the Eagle Power Plant.
Sean, are you proposing that we replace some of those older ones?
Yeah, that's what, I'll kind of show here in the next slide what we're proposing, and this will be over in a second here.
And you can see some of the construction on the sewer plant.
Yeah,
You've got
that's,
these drying
that
beds.
place is going crazy right now. It's an net bed, yeah. I just always have to move my car so it doesn't get crashed. All right, let's go to the next slide, yeah. So, Joe made this for us from, to kind of show a model of what we're gonna try and achieve. And so we're talking about taking out those two old engines, number 3 and number 4, and replacing them with new ones, and then expanding about 90 feet to the west and installing 4 more engines there. And then moving the substation over as well in that shaded yellow area, and taking advantage of that property and our proximity to the 46 kV line and not need to buy new land. And then they can just add on the metal building like they did in the past, but we're talking about resheeting it. Our roof is rotting on the building, and taking the air handlers off the roof and putting them on the back side of the building so that we can work on them on the ground. And then just having only fans on top, so we don't have water on top. So we aren't rusting out the roof, and then we can pull the cool air out through, and it works really good if we do that. So it's pretty much resheeting and remodernizing that building, and taking advantage of what we have. And this is what it will look like. So we'll have the 2 old ones on the one end, the 1987s, and then six new ones. And go to the next slide. So this is
Question,
yeah.
Dave. Which one was it that we rebuilt recently? 4? So it's one that's newer then, right?
The generator had to be rewound on.
Yeah.
That one closest to you. Yeah.
The engine's old.
Yeah, but it's not the one we're gonna pull out.
Yes.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would want to.
It's only pulling the metal one.
Right.
It's just not to make it better.
No, and I just was,
No, I'm with you, I'm sad, because it's running great, and just got redone.
is there a market for them?
No.
Scrap metal?
I'd like it in my yard. I love old engines and lawn ornaments, so. No,
Yeah, that would still function. I guess
So-
you can afford the diesel for it.
yeah, no, I could, just to give you an idea, so at $4.40 gas per decatherm, those older engines, you're at $63.67 a megawatt, and you're at $38 with the new engines, because they're so much more efficient and you aren't using the diesel. That's what's killing the economics.
So, not to, just to throw a curveball out there, why are we keeping the 2 then? Too expensive to replace them?
These
right
guys
now?
are in love with those still. No, I don't know, we,
You're still getting 2.5.
yeah, we're still getting.
They were getting more out of them, but it's costing
Yeah.
more to get it out. It's just,
Yeah,
I
it's
just wondering.
costing more, but you still have capacity, so make some money and then show what happens, and then you guys can probably
but,
decide on that.
They would be the next one.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm just looking at hindsight. I think that one to rebuild it was pushing 7 figures, wasn't it?
Well, we didn't have a choice at the time.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying that I like to know where I'm at 2 years down the road.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we would be running these like in the summer.
yes.
Yes.
when the-
Probably
when
from,
the-
so these projections, I'll show you, I mean, we've always run the past from about noon till 12 at night, so about 12 hours a day. But you have a ton of flexibility in the months of June and September where you can even make more money when you have control of the engines.
when
July and
Joe's
August
California
is-
for-
What's that? Yes.
When you sell to California for all that money.
Yeah, well, just the fact that you can absorb market power that's cheap. I'll show you some slides later that are pretty interesting as well. This one, so I just did the 19.4 megawatts, June through September. This is the prices this spring. The ones that are $116 a megawatt, $216 a megawatt, $243 a megawatt. When you buy a product like this, it's 16 hours a day for high low, and Sundays are out, so it's about 26 days a month. The figures to the right are those monthly amounts, and then you have the market total annually just to buy that power that you're exposed to, $6 million. And then the 30-year down there is $183 million that you'll pay over a 30-year period. And this is without any inflationary things. Gosh, this slide I'm having a hard time seeing, but I luckily wrote it down. I know it's big there, but gosh, I couldn't hardly read my printed part. So what we have over here is on the annual amount, you're $6,129,972. And then if you go clear to the right, you're at $2,877,000. That's with the debt. That's loaning 31.5 million at 4 point. I got it up in that thing up there, 4.65%, and that's on Bloomberg muni bond rate right now. So that's what I grabbed.
The 31, that's what it costs for those.
Yeah, it's almost 2 million a year. So the 1,968,100, that's the payment annually. Right. And then you have to add the variable cost of the natural gas on. And then I added $20 of just cushion that you would take back to reserves as rebuild money per megawatt created. And that variable cost up there is 1.393 million. So altogether, you're almost $3 million a year by going this route versus the 6 million. And then hit the next slide. I think I have them. Yeah, circled. So you're at 183 over a 30-year period. And I can't read that over there hardly. Is it 86? Okay, 86 million. So it's a huge difference.
97
And that's why the plants are worth something.
30 years to pay for our sewer line.
Yeah, we need to buy substations and transmission lines.
Run on sewage.
No favor for Travis. Just kidding. So let's go
Where when these are paid off.
I was thinking about not that one. That one shows coal and natural gas switching. Then the renewables, and actually coal's going down, renewables are going up. So we passed that point. If you go to the next slide, I think there's even better one. That kind of shows, see the renewables that are green, and then how coal's dropping below them. So that's in 2022, but then natural gas is kind of becoming the new deal. Nuclear's flat. Trying to think of what would be. There's another slide here that I wanted to show you. Maybe just scroll through a couple and we'll see if
Tell me when you want to stop.
Okay, this is just showing LNG exports. This is liquefied natural gas. So this is where all our natural gas is going. We lose about 14 billion cubic feet per day to overseas. Compression in ships. Oh, this is an interesting one. So look at how much solar is coming on. And that's planned for 2023. It's just a massive amount. Oh, that's what I want to do. Next slide. So the next slide shows California duck curve, and you guys should know about this. This is price per hour. And what's happening is solar is getting produced, it's dropping the price. And so a lot in the middle of the day. And so eventually it'll go to negative pricing where you have to almost give it away. And that's what's so cool about going with engines, not getting too crazy on solar, not getting too crazy on base load, is you can take advantage of that during the middle of the day, but it'll probably blow out the hours that are on the outside because all that capital cost has to get recouped somewhere. But the engines, if you guys end up doing this, is probably the cheapest, lowest capital per megawatt capacity that you can do.
I just have to say this, Bob, you might know, because when this reminds me of when Ronnie Krupp would get up and he'd have all these tables and nobody, and the council lights just glazed over with like Yeah, you said, you guys all should know this, that. I don't know anything about this.
Well, I just want you to be able to know, because I'm probably approaching you about some changes, solar policies, things like that in the next little while, because you don't want to hurt, you know, the people that are here.
Well, I think that's why we have we can't let people produce more solar than what we can do, just to avoid the duck curve, right?
Well, even you might want to import it for free, or get paid to import it.
Yeah.
By not getting crazy and let some other state with their legislatures pay you to take their power. That's a better strategy, because that lowers the bill for everyone in town. That, you know.
You wanna go over this, you wanna go past it?
I'll go past it. I don't know if there's any other, let's go to EVs. Let's go down a little bit. Yeah, so this is interesting. 16% of vehicles in the US now are EV or hybrid. And so we're suggesting, we're doing a cost service study right now, suggesting getting a commercial EV charging fee. I don't know, I've dealt with the guys in Beaver, and they're getting massacred with those EV charging stations they have down there. 2/3 of their power is going through those, and it's really hurting the citizens there. And so you have to get the rate right where you get compensated for that. Trying to think of what else. I think that's pretty good. And yeah. Oh, that one's kind of fun. So sorry, this is from the Federal Reserve. This is the EU natural gas prices last year in 2020. So I showed this to the Springles Council last September. Guys, like, get ready for hell to start, you know, because for power pricing and stuff, showing them this, and then go to the next slide. Yeah, it went to $69, but you see that spike up there. Now we're down to, you know, lowly $12. But it looks like it's got a curve going back up. So we'll see how it goes this winter. Oh, this is kind of interesting too. So yeah, go there, see how drilling for oil and gas is going down. So from 2011 to 2022. And then the next chart will show you the presidents and how much they signed for leases. And look at that bottom one there. That's pretty crazy. So you wonder why you're paying a lot. Yeah. But anyway, that's about, I think that's it. That's all I need to show you. So
Thank you, Sean. That was very, very exciting. Really.
all right.
So Mayor Council, I guess the discussion would be, I mean, this would be a project we'd have to bond for, but it looks like to take matters back into our own hands and help get these generators in place. And then, you know, like Sean said, at times we could make some money back on that, but if you look at just what the cost is of buying on the market, as opposed to having this under contract and having our own resource, it's just gonna save us tons of money in the long run.
And the citizens will benefit from that as well. So.
Yeah.
Is it worth buying a couple of batteries?
Oh,
When we're at
so
that peak time,
look at, well, that's a loaded thing. So if you
it's
look at,
unloaded. I mean, how do you know when to dump the power back out of the batteries when you want to put it in?
so what happens generally with solar is you load them up and then you have different options. And so usually it's from 1 to 4 hours. And so you'll choose to dump the whole thing, you know, either 1 hour, spread it out over 2 hours, or spread it out over 4 hours. And then usually it's a percentage. So usually to make it economical, so you'll take that solar price from say 3.5 cents kilowatt hour, and you'll move it up to 70 cents kilowatt hour, or 7 cents kilowatt hour, in order to do the batteries and get some more additional on your peak. And so it can be worth it. It's a diversifier. But if you look here, let me see, what do I got? So yeah, I mean, look at per megawatt, the capital cost, $115 and 98 cents per megawatt. And then you have to fill it with something. So you're going to pay for a solar field, or if you got it from California at free, it'd be okay, because then you'd only be $115. But look at the gas generator cost, and then you're going to add, you know, your $40 to that and be at $47 a megawatt hour. So it's still not economical. And if you do it, you want to do a PPA where you aren't taking care of them and you aren't liable for them, that you just pay for power that comes out and you got an agreement.
What would the PPA run us? Have you checked that?
There is a project that we're looking at, down in Cedar City. And it's about 50% of the capacity. So like, say you bought 10 megawatts of solar, you'd have that through the day, and then you'd be reduced down to 50% for, I think it was 4 hours. So you'd be down 5 megawatts for 4 hours of release, and it was about $70 a megawatt hour. And so it's kind of, it may be okay.
No brainer.
It's okay to, but it makes the whole thing more expensive, where when you had the solar before, or maybe if you own engines, you decide to run during those hours. I don't know.
Hey, where's my nuclear power coming?
It's still,
Is it still coming?
it's still coming up. It's still there.
Okay, Sean, before you walk up, I have one more question. So I like having the security of knowing that those generators are in that building. So when you add on, are you gonna add on, put the 6 in and then pull the 2 out and put the 2 back in, or will it?
The 2 that are remaining in the foundations, I don't know if we can go to the picture of the engines there,
Well, I just,
or what do you mean by
so
that?
I'm just saying that we'll be up to 4 old ones, 4 new ones, and we'll pull 2 old ones out and put 2.
No,
new
we'll have
ones in.
6 new ones and 2 old ones.
No, in the process,
Oh,
when you're actually doing it. The
oh.
first thing I don't want you to do is go in there and jerk the 2 old ones out and spend 6 months.
So
building
we
them.
were talking about, if we get this all approved, maybe taking the 2 old ones out, number 3 and 4, in September of 2024. So that they're installed by summer of 2025. That's what we'll try and negotiate, but we won't rip them out if we need that capacity.
You'll put the 4 new Caterpillars in and then bring the 2 Enterprise in when they get here, is that?
No, well, the enterprises are there, but what I'm saying is we don't want to lose them during the summer. We want that capacity. So whatever we do, we will pull them out when it's advantageous to the city in the fall, probably, and then do all the construction and stuff during the winter and have them ready for the next run season. So the run season's June 1st to September 15th about. That's when we will be ready.
I don't know, I'm just a logical guy. I'd build that building out there, put those 4 on there and then tear the roof off the other 4 and lift your others out and do it that way. So we're not really sitting without.
We might have problems integrating we can think about that. We may have some problems with integrating some of the equipment and stuff. We'll have to see.
That can be worked out in the.
Yeah,
Well, it's gonna depend on
definitely-
my approval of this.
Well, you'll approve it.
You can come on down.
We're not approving anything.
Yeah, you don't have
I
to. do
can't
that.
even try to find the answer.
Do you remember what our initial offering was, or what the offering was on the nuclear per megawatt hour?
The initial was that I heard, but we never entered it at Springville, was $55. Yeah.
56, and
Yeah.
then 80.
I can see an hour finding my notes.
Yeah.
I thought it was 50 or 50.
It was. That's the number I heard a lot.
So
And
even
then,
if we do get that, we're still hedging on that with these.
yeah, and
As
if
long as the gas prices.
if you get natural growth too, that's base load, you want to make sure that you can absorb that. But I think you guys have a lot of people trying to come in, it looks like, with developments and industrial development stuff. So I imagine the base load will get up to 15 within a few years. So, yeah.
This is no brainer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Where we going?
Just for information.
This is just to talk
They're gonna bring us
to you, and then I'll do whatever.
Yeah, as we get more information from Caterpillar, as we get costs, finalized and stuff, we'll bring back, we'll kind of keep you updated, but it's something that we want to move on.
Probably within a couple weeks. Because we're getting all the costs right now. So.
I know the council knows this, but we're very lucky to have Sean. So for the notes here today, we're very lucky to have you. Thank you, Sean.
Keeping in mind, if we are gonna bond for that, we've still got it. Sean, you were there last meeting, I don't know if they talked anymore about it, so we're gonna have like
We're gonna have-
$1 million bill
We're gonna have a bill there too.
Where?
over.
Southern Utah.
Oh,
Southern Utah.
tomorrow we're gonna go talk to try and get a grant for that project, the substation.
For the substation project, oh, good.
Yeah, me and Craig are supposed to meet with the state guys tomorrow.
But isn't our assessment $1 million right now?
I don't know how much it'll be, we're asking
I
for
know,
6.
I know Spanish was 4, Salem was just underneath us.
It's something similar to that, but it will depend on how much grant has to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something
Well,
similar.
just keep in mind, we're gonna have to fund that party too.
Okay,
Those are parties I don't like.
I move.
I'll second that motion.
gee, I didn't get the call for it yet.
Okay.
Call for it. Yes.
Motion to adjourn has been taken care of. We're adjourned.